I believe in pink lady supremacy. That's right, I'll be the first to admit I'm down horrendous for Yae Miko. You might as well join me because if you're playing Genshin Impact in 2022, it's already too late to save you. If you're pulling for Yae Miko, I can't imagine it's for her power level, but maybe you've heard the news somewhere about her becoming stronger. You'd be right, she's a lot better received now than her release. So let's talk about that. How was Miko at first? And has she gotten better? My name is Braxophone, and let's talk about Yae Miko. Miko's first run was in 2.5, which felt extremely late to a lot of people for Sasuke reasons. Her banner timing wasn't the best since most players knew by then that Kokomi was a decent unit and Raiden was also getting a rerun. When players got around to her trial, it featured a less than ideal version of Miko where she takes up a bunch of field time without doing much damage in exchange. And well, that's the version of Miko we still have. Once you play her long enough, you sort of get used to her field time requirements, but at the start, a lot of players felt like she just felt bad to play. Some people don't mind taking the extra time at all, but compared to what we were used to with Oz summons, Bennett burst, and other OG units, Yae's field time was pretty high, and she wasn't initially meant to be on field for normal attacks either. Her damage multipliers were far too low for that. When you use her elemental skill to summon turrets, it animation locks you. You don't have iframes, and it can take a couple of seconds to get all 3 turrets out. It's a lot to commit to play a character that can be replaced by 4 stars. Fischl is a 4-star character that demands less field time and provides battery for your team as well as solid damage. In other words, she's a great off-field damage dealer that also gives your team energy. Yae's damage contribution is generally higher than Fischl's at equal investment, even with the field time requirements. But that doesn't change the fact that she didn't feel great to play when players began adjusting to that prolonged field time playstyle. On top of that, Yae also had a high damaging burst, but its energy cost was a high 90, meaning you often needed a battery for her anyways if you wanted to make her deal a lot of damage. Now, all of this might make it seem like I think Yae isn't a good character, and I just want to clarify, that's not at all what I'm saying. Though she had a lot of things that turned off players to using her or pulling for her, she was still solid with investment as an off-field electro damage dealer. But she didn't truly start to feel like a complete character until Sumeru. With the release of Dendro, every Electro character got better. Dendro was essentially a blanket buff to Electro, and a way to open up new playstyles where Elemental Mastery would be viable. All Electro characters benefit from it, some more than others. Fischl is an example of a character that went from insanely good to actually broken with Dendro. Her Ascension 4 passive makes it so that she can trigger a ton of bonus reactions. Fischl became a must-have for Dendro teams that deal with Electro in any way at all, which might lead people to think that Yae is basically out of commission. Luckily though, Hoyoverse had planned for this. Yae has partial elemental mastery scaling on her turrets. While you would still build her attack percent, electro damage, and crit before, elemental mastery has become a much more useful stat with Dendro. That doesn't mean Yae's build has drastically changed, but her general damage ceiling is much higher now. She's not the best electro or anything, but Yae is definitely a lot stronger than when she first started. Aggravate is a powerful team archetype that's all about giving damage buffs on hit to electro characters, and though Fischl is the queen of Aggravate, Yae is not so bad there either. In fact, Yae's random turret targeting can actually be seen as a positive here. While Fischl and Yae are both single target characters, because Yae targets randomly, you're less likely to run into electro application issues with Yae than Fischl. Essentially, you're able to use Yae to proc a solid amount of aggravates, meaning her personal damage contribution in an aggravate team is actually pretty good. Plus, her turrets are getting better the more elemental mastery you have, so you get extra value for all of those set effects and substats. That said, Fischl is still the primary off-field damage dealer to be played in aggravate due to her damage being amazing and her being a good battery for your team. But what if you play Yae and Fischl together? Well, there you have an incredibly strong aggravate team. Every time Yae's turrets aggravates, you'll have the opportunity to activate Fischl's Ascension 4, which will deal more aggravated electro damage. On top of that, running Fischl with Yae allows you to use Yae's burst more often, which doesn't have ICD on its bolts. Similar to how Bennett and Xingqiu can carry any characters, or how Yelan and Xingqiu can also carry any characters, Yae and Fischl, when in a dendro team, can carry a lot of team weight. Your fourth character can basically be anyone, and as long as it's not messing with the elemental reactions too much, Yae and Fischl can basically carry your entire Spiral Abyss chamber. Aggravate is a playstyle that's drastically improved Yae's playability, but there's even more than that. There's also Hyper Bloom, which I like to call Yiper Bloom in the Pink Lady context. It sounds absolutely disgusting, but it's really funny. The great thing about Yae Hyper Bloom is that it takes her decent off-field single target damage and turns it into much higher damage when factoring in the Hyper Blooms. Hyper Bloom is a strong archetype in general, just due to how it can make any electro character contribute high damage, but in Yae's case, you can still maintain solid Yae damage while adding the Hyper Blooms in, because you don't have to fully commit to elemental mastery for her. Her turrets having partial EM scaling makes it so that you're still getting solid turret damage if you do get EM stats, but you're also getting more Hyper Bloom damage. The dendro cores all have a small AoE hitbox, so even though her turrets only target the on-field enemies, dendro cores will still take electro ticks and cause Hyper Bloom damage, leading to a high damage Yae-centric team. Before dendro, you didn't really have all of these options for her. You were basically stuck with a mix of Raiden teams or Taser to make her damage competitive. With her turret EM scaling though, and new dendro teams, Yae has become a significantly stronger unit, so much so that her value as a character pull has also changed. Most people don't really care about meta for pull decisions anyways, since gacha games are ultimately about collecting, and Yae, with her very pink electro and great personality, is definitely a character that plenty of players want to pick up. Now, with her rerunning at a time where electro characters are stronger and where she also has many new teams, she's become a pretty solid unit. Yae Miko's place in the Genshin Impact meta has changed a lot, and despite the fact that she may be uncomfortable to play for some players, she has areas where her field time demands can be worth it. She's a better pull now than she was before. Plus, literally, who wouldn't want to play her? Just look at her. That said, there will be other Sumeru units coming up soon, so as always, spend your primos wisely. Let me know if you guys are going to be pulling on her banner this go around. As always, I go live a few days a week at twitch.tv/Braxophone. I'm traveling right now, but I'll be back pretty soon. Thanks everyone, and I'll catch you next time.